Early morning hours on July 26, 1978, John McCormick, a DC cab driver, was shot and robbed with a .32 caliber handgun on his front porch. His wife heard him plead with the shooter, but sadly that did not work. The supposed shooter was wearing a black stocking over his face, which would later find hair fibers on. Santae Tribble and his friend Cleveland Wright were both suspects in the murder of John McCormick. 9 days after the murder, Bobby Jean Phillips told the police Santae Tribble, who was 17 at the time, and Cleveland Wright, who was 20 at the time, sold a .32 caliber revolver for $60 to her roommate, who was Wright's girlfriend. However, Phillips' story was never the same and was very inconsistent. She even brought in the bullets, and from the gun her roommate was sold, and the ballistics didn't match, and they were never able to actually find the gun. So this is the FBI analysis person talking. They actually ended up giving Santae Tribble 20 years to life. My name is Marilyn Schoolenberg, and I am the FBI agent who testified in court against Santae Tribble. The hair fibers that we have found and analyzed were on a black stocking that was not too far from the house. Now, this black stocking is what the suspect was wearing during the crime. Under a microscope, it is a perfect match to Santae Tribble's hair and the hair that we found on the stocking. It matches all the microscopic characteristics, and we believe that Santae Tribble did. Hello, my name is Sandra Levick, and I am Mr. Tribble's attorney. When we look at Mr. Tribble's first trial, we can see several inconsistencies with the evidence. Not only was Mr. Tribble robbed of his Sixth Amendment to a speedy trial, his half a dozen alibi witnesses were completely disregarded by the jury. The evidence that was presented by the prosecution was completely circumstantial. The hair fibers that were found on the black stockings were mistakenly matched to my client. It was so ludicrous that one of the hairs matched to my client turned out to be, in fact, a dog hair. In 2003, Mr. Tribble was released on parole. In 2012, me and my team were successful in obtaining mitochondrial DNA testing on the 13 hairs we recovered from the stocking mask. None of the hairs, including the alleged match, implicated Tribble or his friend Wright. Further, the analysis revealed FBI analysis errors, including sending 3 or more innocent people to jail. With this new information, 3 other men were released based on the faulty FBI analysis. In December 2012, my client, Mr. Santae Tribble, was awarded the Certificate of Innocence by the District of Columbia Superior Judge. So the end result of this whole entire fiasco is that the FBI have teamed up to get the wrongfully convicted due to faulty FBI analysis out of jail. With Santae Tribble getting exonerated, many articles like this one were pointing out how the FBI wrongly convicted multiple people. But with many of these articles coming out, the same goes for the amount of people who were wrongly convicted coming out of prison or jail. This is such a great thing, even though the FBI kind of goofed up. Santae Tribble was 1 out of 5 wrongfully convicted using faulty FBI hair analysis. Santae Tribble was not the only one who got exonerated. First up, we have Donald Gates, who served 20 years in prison. He was convicted of first-degree felony murder while armed and also rape. Next up, we have Kevin Martin. He served 26 years for rape and murder, which he did not commit. And he actually sued for $30 million and won. And then we have Kirk Odom. He was actually in prison for 31 years, and he was charged with rape while armed, sodomy, armed robbery, and first-degree burglary while armed. Then we have Cleveland Wright, who is the same Cleveland Wright that was actually in the same trial as Santae Tribble. And he actually only served 28 years in prison, but was charged with the same thing as Tribble. And then, of course, we have Santae Tribble, who served 32 years. And altogether, they ended up getting $40 million together, except for Kevin Martin, who actually ended up suing, like I said. But unfortunately and sadly, Santae Tribble actually died this year on June 24th. He had a long life ahead of him, and he should not have died that young. He actually spent 32 years in prison. 23 were his sentence, and 5 of those years were actually parole violations, because he did in fact get out in 2003 on parole, but he actually went back in. So in my conclusion, I think Santae Tribble was targeted for this. And especially with things going on now, and seeing how different things are, I hope that this doesn't happen again. And I just wish his family luck. But also, he had an alibi, and none of the evidence really pointed towards it. I think it was literally just who's the closest person that we can find. And I feel like the FBI should have done a better job at checking each other's work and sending it to the forensic scientists to double check. I know there's a kind of like a law type of thing in court where you have to get it peer reviewed before you can use it in the court of law. Also, Tribble should have had a right to a speedy trial instead of waiting 2 years to actually have his trial start, because the actual crime happened in 1978, but his trial wasn't until 1980. I just don't think somebody should have gone through that, especially if he was 17. He was around our age, and I think it should never happen.